I'm a little depressed right now. I've made it pretty well known that the NFL draft is my favorite time of the year. And now that it's come and gone, I don't really have a lot to look forward to. All right, guys, welcome back, White Widow Sports. I know you've been missing us. We haven't had a lot of videos come out lately, a couple weeks without a podcast, but I'm just going to come clean with you guys. I'm a little depressed right now. I've made it pretty well known that the NFL draft is my favorite time of the year. Now that it's come and gone, I don't really have a lot to look forward to. Training camp is a ways away. I'm not a huge baseball guy. I don't really care about the NBA playoffs. The Hawks suck too. The Braves are doing a little bit better, but I wanted to get on here and record a quick video for you guys talking about what I consider the winners and losers of the draft. I'm going to give you three of each. I know there are some teams that are going to be left out from this. I'm not going through all 32 teams, but I just wanted to point out six teams and put three in each of those categories. So let's start on a positive note. Talk about some of the winners. I want to talk about the Pittsburgh Steelers. So their notable picks were Derek Harmon, Caleb Johnson, and Jack Sawyer. I think they did a great job of addressing needs. The glaring omission to this is the quarterback position, but I think they told us what they weren't telling us by not drafting a quarterback highly. They did get Will Howard in the sixth round. And I think what we can take from this is that Aaron Rodgers is all but signed, maybe a backup plan of Kirk Cousins coming from Atlanta, but they added to the defensive line. They got a new starting running back in Caleb Johnson. And hearing the story about Derek Harmon and what happened with his mom passing away shortly after he was able to make it to the hospital and tell her that he was drafted and he got to fulfill that lifelong dream. It's just a story that you cannot ignore. It touches the heartstrings of all football fans. So I really love what the Pittsburgh Steelers did, and that's why they made this list for me. Second team I want to talk about on the winners is the New York Giants. Obviously, anytime a team gets to make two first round picks, you are seeing an influx of talent, and the Giants needed it. Abdul Carter would be the number one overall pick in a lot of draft classes. And if it wasn't for Tennessee's desperate need at a quarterback position, going first overall there, or even just the freak that is Travis Hunter going second overall to Jacksonville, Abdul Carter probably represented the best player available for the Giants. And then they got to come back up in the second round and take their preferred quarterback option in Jackson Dart, who I don't think has to start right away, which is a good thing that we've seen for quarterbacks, being able to come in, learn for a year, and go from there. And then I could not possibly leave the Giants off this list after they made Cam Scatterboo what I think is a favorite to be their new starting running back starting in 2025. I know Tyron Tracy has only been there for a year. He had a really good rookie year last year, but Cam Scatterboo can do everything that Tyrone Tracy can do, in some cases better. Tyrone Tracy cannot do everything Scatterboo can do. So maybe it's a homer pick, but adding a running back like that and our personal hero here on White Widow Sports in the fourth round, addressing the needs that they did at quarterback, defensive line, and running back the way that they did, could not leave the Giants off the list. And I know at least one of our loyal viewers will appreciate that pick. But the top spot for winners has to go to the Baltimore Ravens. I don't know how they do it. It's very similar to the Philadelphia Eagles. They just let the draft come to them, and they always get players that they shouldn't. Malachi Starks was an absolute steal at the end of the first round, a safety out of Georgia. He will transform what they are able to do on the back half of their defense. Mike Green was a consensus top 15 pick going into the draft, and he was there for them in the second round. And then Emory Jones was another very interesting pick for them. He is an offensive tackle out of LSU. This time last year, he was viewed as being a top 10 pick who has fallen due to a number of different reasons. I won't get into all of that. But I felt like that was a much needed addition to their offensive line. It keeps their strength strong. They have a very good running game with Lamar Jackson, Derrick Henry. Emory Jones is going to help with that. But like I said, their best pick has to be Malachi Starks. Getting him at pick 27 at the end of the first, just absolutely incredible work. But anytime you have winners, you also have to have losers. So I want to start with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Now, they added Emeka Egbuka and a cornerback named Benjamin Morrison from Notre Dame in the second round. Both of those are really good picks. I think Morrison was actually their best pick, but they didn't do as well as they needed to in addressing their needs. Linebacker was by far and away their best need. Jahad Campbell was considered to be a consensus pick, the perfect position for them to take there at pick 19. And instead, they choose to go with a wide receiver out of Ohio State. Again, not saying anything bad about Egbuka. I think he is a great player. I think he will have a good career. I just don't think that he addressed an urgent need They have already re-signed Chris Godwin to a 3-year extension. Mike Evans is there for another year. Jalen McMillan was just an early round pick last year out of Washington. And I think that is something that meant that they could have waited on taking another receiver. There's also a lot of overlap in the skill sets of Godwin and Igbuka that if this pick was more akin to a Mike Evans heir apparent, I think it would have made a lot more sense. I just can't see that pick being great for them this year, not a very key contributor to their offense moving forward. And so I had to ding Tampa Bay for that one. Tampa Bay is not going to be the only NFC South team that I ding for this one. And maybe I'm just a Homer Falcons fan, and y'all can chime in the comments and let me know if that's what you think is going on here. But I was not a fan of what the New Orleans Saints did. They took Kelvin Banks at the pick 109, and then they followed that up with Tyler Shuck in the second round. Now, I know they needed a quarterback, but I don't think anybody thought that Tyler Shuck was worthy of the 40th overall pick. Their best pick was actually running back Devin Neal in the sixth round. We know that some of the coaches there have not been a big fan of the running backs behind Alvin Kamara, but Shuck is just not a good prospect. Their cornerback that they took in the fourth round projects as a backup. The offensive lineman that they took in the top 10 was not really considered a top 10 pick. And I think they could have addressed that need later. I think they did a good job of addressing needs, just maybe not in the right order. That could have really benefited their team in 2025. I think the Saints did not do anything to take a step forward this year. And that's why I have them listed as a loser here for this draft. And then the Minnesota Vikings are another team I want to talk about. I don't think that Minnesota had a lot that they could have done with this draft, but they still did not do what I felt like they could have. They came into this draft with only having 4 picks. They ended up making 5 selections, but moving back from 24 would have done a lot of good for them. And instead, we saw the Houston Texans take an opportunity to trade back at 25 so that the New York Giants could come up and take Jackson Dart. Why wasn't that deal on the table for Minnesota when they so desperately needed to acquire more capital, acquire more picks, and do more for their team? JJ McCarthy is on a rookie contract. All signs point to him being healthy and a full go this year. So they needed to do a lot to prepare him to win. Donovan Jackson being a very good offensive guard prospect, I think does help them in that way. It will help their running game with Aaron Jones returning this year. But I just feel like they could have moved back. They could have done more to address their needs. And by far and away, their top need coming into this year was a cornerback, and they didn't take one at all. They had 5 picks. None of them were on the secondary. They did not take a safety. They did not take a corner. They did get an offensive lineman. I also like the addition of Ty Felton on day 2. But the Minnesota Vikings having so few picks, not doing enough to really address needs, I have to give them this spot. Sorry, Vikings fans. But those are it. 3 winners, 3 losers. I want you guys to let me know in the comments, why am I wrong? Why am I right? Who should have been on this list and who did I leave out? Any of you guys that paid attention to the draft and had some different people than who I thought should have been named here, let us know. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.